If you saw me now, you'd think I had it all figured out. From the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Manhattan office, the city stretches out like a living, breathing mosaic, yellow cabs snaking through avenues, skyscrapers catching the last blush of sunset. I lean back in my leather chair, silk scarf brushing my jawline, the faint aroma of espresso curling from the cup beside me. People know me as Madison Carter, founder, CEO, keynote speaker. What they don't know is that I've spent years keeping certain chapters of my life sealed away, like letters too dangerous to reread. My phone buzzes against the polished mahogany desk. A text from an unknown number. Saw your graduation picture today. Bet you still remember that day. I do. I freeze. My hand hovers over the screen, but my chest tightens all the same. Of course I remember. How could I forget the day my own sister, Rachel Carter, decided I didn't deserve my moment? The day she hid my graduation gown just hours before the ceremony. The day I thought my future had been stolen in one petty act. The irony? That day didn't break me. It built me. Still, I've never told anyone what really happened, or how I ended up walking on that stage in something far better than a standard-issue gown. And now, it seems the past wants to knock on my door again. For years earlier, it was supposed to be one of the best mornings of my life. May sunlight spilled across my tiny apartment in Boston, catching the edges of my cap and tassel that I'd left on the dresser the night before. The smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen, my playlist of upbeat graduation songs hummed from my phone speaker, and my hands trembled just enough to make putting on mascara a risky operation. I'd worked for this moment. Every late-night study session, every part-time job, every tear shed over a stubborn statistics assignment, it all led here. When I unzipped the garment bag where my graduation gown should have been hanging, my stomach dropped. Empty. Rachel? I called out, though I knew she wasn't there. My older sister had stayed over the night before, an unplanned visit. She'd been oddly quiet, watching me pack my bag, her eyes lingering on the gown as if it were made of gold. Frantic, I tore through my closet, under the bed, even the laundry basket. Nothing. My chest burned. My breath came in short bursts. I already knew. She'd done it. Rachel and I had always had friction. She was beautiful in that effortless way people envy, waves of blonde hair, that perfect sorority girl smile. But she resented that I was graduating before her, that I'd earned honors, that professors knew my name. The night before, she'd made little digs. It's just a gown. No one really cares what you're wearing. I'd laughed it off. Now, it felt like a warning I didn't catch in time. I sank onto the bed, palms pressed to my knees, trying to keep my makeup from smudging. That's when my phone buzzed, a text from my grandmother, Eleanor Whitmore. Maddie, remember what I told you. You don't need to wear the same thing as everyone else to stand out. Her words hit me like a steadying hand on my shoulder. I thought back to the night before I left for college, when she'd handed me a silk, midnight blue dress from her youth. Wear this someday when you want to feel unstoppable, she'd said. I had a choice, fall apart, or walk into that ceremony owning something that was mine, not the university's. I reached for the dress. The silk slid over my skin like a whisper of courage. Midnight blue, fitted just enough to feel intentional, the hem swaying just above my knees. I added my cap, because rules were rules, and when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the girl who'd been sabotaged. I saw someone who refused to be small. Walking across that stage, I felt every pair of eyes follow me. A sea of identical black gowns surrounded me, but there I was, a living exclamation mark. I heard whispers, saw a few raised brows, even caught the university president doing a double take before shaking my hand. Cameras flashed. What I didn't know then was that one of those photos, the girl in the striking blue dress, tassel swinging, would end up on the local news. The segment wasn't about me. It was about unexpected graduation fashion moments. But in that 30-second clip, the phone calls started. One of them was from Vanessa Brooks, a powerhouse event planner who'd graduated from the same university a decade earlier. She told me she admired my fearless presentation and asked if I'd be interested in an internship. I had no experience in event planning, but I knew how to work under pressure, and apparently I knew how to stand out. That internship became my proving ground. Long nights packing gift bags, hauling crates of centerpieces, learning to speak the language of vendors, clients, and high-profile guests without tripping over my words. Vanessa taught me everything: how to negotiate without flinching, how to see a space and imagine it transformed, how to keep calm when a $10,000 floral arrangement arrived in the wrong color. There were nights I collapsed onto my bed with aching feet, mascara smudged, wondering if I was in over my head. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered walking onto that stage, daring to be different. By my second year, I wasn't just assisting, I was leading. My first independent event? A charity gala that exceeded its fundraising goal by $75,000. A small victory on paper, but to me, it was proof that I could hold my own. I didn't tell my family much. Rachel sent the occasional text, polite, distant, as if the gown incident had been erased from her memory. I kept my answers short. My parents knew I was doing well, but they assumed I was in some safe, modest job. By the time I was 26, I'd launched my own firm, Carter & Company, from a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. Within 3 years, we were booking international clients, orchestrating events in Paris, Dubai, and Tokyo. My name appeared in magazines, my Instagram gained followers, and still, my family didn't see the full picture. I told myself it didn't matter. They didn't need to know. But deep down, I think I was saving the truth for the right moment. And that moment was about to arrive. It was late September when the invitation arrived. A cream envelope, my name in gold script, the return address unmistakable, Rachel Carter. Inside, please join us for my engagement party, Boston Harbor Hotel, October 14th. I almost tossed it, but something in me stirred, not anger, not bitterness, more like readiness. For years, I'd kept my success contained, tidy, invisible to the people who once underestimated me. Now, maybe it was time they saw. The night of the party, I stepped out of the Blacktown car in a tailored ivory jumpsuit, hair swept back in a sleek knot. The harbor lights glittered against the glass facade of the hotel. Inside, the room hummed with the low murmur of well-dressed guests and the clink of champagne flutes. Rachel spotted me from across the room. Her smile faltered for just a second, a flicker of surprise, before she crossed the floor in a fitted red dress, all charm and poise. "Maddie, you came," she said, hugging me like we'd always been close. I returned the hug, letting my eyes roam over the space. White hydrangeas, gold accents, a tasteful string quartet, and in the far corner, a small but distinct event planner's station. The setup was clean, efficient, almost professional. Almost. "This is beautiful," I said, and it was. But I could already see the missteps. Lighting that washed out the guests, table arrangements crowding the dance floor. Old habits die hard. Rachel introduced me around. Her fiancé, her college friends, a few of our relatives who hadn't seen me in years. I caught the sideways glances, the polite nods. I knew what they were thinking. She turned out fine, I guess. Then the moment arrived, unplanned but perfect. One of Rachel's friends, a bubbly woman named Jessica Monroe, tilted her head and asked, "So, Maddie, what do you do now?" I could have brushed it off with the usual vague answer. But instead, I smiled. "I run Carter & Company. We specialize in high-profile events worldwide. Last month, we handled a royal wedding in Dubai." The silence was delicious. Rachel blinked. "Wait, you run Carter & Company? As in the magazine features?" "The Forbes list. That's the one." I let it hang in the air, watching the realization ripple through the group. Our Uncle David whistled low. "Well, damn. Guess we underestimated you." I shrugged lightly. A lot of people did. Rachel's smile was tight now, her eyes scanning me as if trying to reconcile the sister she once mocked with the woman standing in front of her. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" she asked. "Because," I said, leaning in just enough for her to feel the weight of my words, "sometimes the best way to make a point is to let people see it for themselves." A few minutes later, the hotel manager approached, recognizing me from a conference I'd spoken at. He congratulated me, offered a private tour of the venue's new ballroom. I glanced back at Rachel, whose cheeks were flushed. For the rest of the night, I mingled, shared stories with strangers who'd read about my work, and watched as my family slowly recalibrated their image of me. Every compliment, every handshake, every astonished glance was a quiet, satisfying victory. And somewhere between the champagne toasts and the goodbyes, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about owning my story start to finish. 2 weeks after the engagement party, Rachel called. Not texted. Not emailed. Called. Her voice was careful, almost hesitant. Maddie, I've been thinking a lot since the party. About us. I let the silence stretch. She filled it quickly. I know I wasn't a great sister. I was jealous, petty, and that day at your graduation. I'm not proud of what I did. I guess I thought if I could take the spotlight away from you, maybe I'd feel better about myself. Hearing her say it didn't erase the sting, but it did something. It made me see her not as the villain of my past, but as someone who had been small enough back then to try to make me smaller. I appreciate you saying that, I replied. But if we're going to have any kind of relationship moving forward, it has to be different. I won't go back to how things were. She was quiet. What do you mean? I laid it out plainly. I'll be part of your life, but only if you respect me, in public and private. No digs. No underhanded comments. And you have to work on your own goals, not compete with mine. I'm happy to help you figure out what you want, but I won't be your measuring stick. I gave similar terms to my parents when they later called, gentle, but firm. If they wanted to be in my life, they had to be curious about me, not judgmental. They had to show up for me the way I'd always shown up for them. To my surprise, they listened. Maybe the shock of seeing who I'd become made them realize they'd been absent from my journey. My father promised to visit New York for the first time in years. My mother asked if she could attend one of my public speaking events. As for Rachel, she didn't answer right away. But a week later, she emailed me a screenshot, an enrollment confirmation for a business management course at Boston University. Starting fresh. Not trying to beat you, just trying to be me. That was the thing about having the upper hand. It wasn't about holding power over them. It was about deciding how and if I wanted to let them back in. And for the first time, I felt like I could choose without guilt. They could either meet me where I stood now or stay where they were. By spring, the shifts were noticeable. Rachel sent me photos from her classes, group projects, presentation days, late nights at the library. She still had that same sharp confidence, but now it seemed aimed at building something for herself instead of tearing me down. My parents visited New York twice, both times sitting in the front row while I spoke at conferences. Afterward, my father hugged me and said, I didn't realize how much I'd missed watching you in your element. One sunny April afternoon, I found myself standing in my office, gazing at the framed photo on my bookshelf. It was from graduation day. Me in the midnight blue dress, cap slightly tilted, shaking the university president's hand. The silk still shimmered in the light, just as it had when my grandmother, Eleanor, had given it to me. That dress had been more than fabric. It was a reminder that I could walk into any room, even when I wasn't prepared for, and make it my own. A week before Rachel's wedding, she called again. This time, her voice was lighter. I found something of yours, she said. Your graduation gown. I kept it all these years. I thought maybe you'd want it back. I laughed softly. You can keep it. I've got something better. The day of her wedding, I watched her walk down the aisle, confident, glowing, entirely herself. We shared a look, one that said we both understood the unspoken. The past was still there, but it no longer defined us. Later, as I stood on the terrace with the city skyline behind me, I thought about how far I'd come. The betrayals, the rebuilding, the quiet victories, the loud ones. Every step had led me here, a place where my worth wasn't up for debate. I touched the edge of the silk scarf I wore, the same shade as that blue dress, and smiled. Because the truth was, I never needed the gown to prove I belonged on that stage.